All right, that was quick. I feel like I just looked at the clock and it was like 8:50, but it is already time to start class. So good to see everybody. We're going to go ahead and just talk about what you have on your plate for this week and just remind you about last week's material. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Um, so just a quick reminder in case people didn't read my email. Again, if you're not reading emails, make sure you're checking those at least once a week, preferably daily. Like if you just make it a part of your day for school to check email and make sure you're getting all the communication from teachers. That's super important. Just once a day. You don't have to be like me and have it forwarded to your phone and constantly be looking at school stuff. But just once a day is good. So last week, one thing you'll notice is that these due dates have changed. So technically, last week's material was originally due on the 29th. But once I started thinking about it and realized, hey, it's Thanksgiving break and we are supposed to have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, I didn't really want people kind of stressing about that and worrying about getting this stuff done, getting turned in over that break. I'm a huge proponent of when we have time off, there's a reason for that time off. There's a reason for the break during Thanksgiving. And it's just to kind of disconnect from school and let your brain relax. So I didn't want people being super concerned with that. So what I did was I emailed out and just let people know that I pushed those due dates back to this Sunday. If that's something that you're taking advantage of, just don't forget about it. Don't start on this week's work and then forget that you got to go back and do last week's. Make sure you're keeping a running list of things you have to do, and make sure you turn these two things in by this Sunday, the 6th. So I won't process grades until Sunday the 6th for these two assignments. And the reason why is because if I process them, then the system will mark them as 0 and missing for people. And I don't want people to stress out and see that. So just know that these two things will be processed a week from today, next Monday. All right. And then this week's stuff, completing the square. So completing the square is basically a tool that you have in your toolbox that you can use to change something from standard form. So something like 3x squared plus 7x minus 4. And you could put that in vertex form. So one way you can do that, obviously in math, there's lots of ways you can do things, but one way you can do it is by completing the square. So just kind of another tool in your toolbox. There's a lot of information out there about this, lots of videos, lots of things that can help you understand this concept. But if you're watching my video, if you're watching other videos and it's just not really making sense, like I always say, just reach out to me. We can go through some examples together and I can answer any questions you have about it. So if you'll notice also, and this is something I stressed in that email, that even though last week's due dates have been pushed back to December 6th, this week you still have two things due on December 6th. Okay, so it's not like everything's been pushed back a week. So make sure that you're getting, if you don't have the previous week's material done, the vocab and concepts and check-in, make sure you're getting all 4 things completed and turned in by December 6th. Okay. So just like always, here's the support stuff, practice problem, textbook, pages we're on, problems I want you to do. There's some problems that I want you to skip. So make sure you look in that practice problems to check that out. And I talk about it in my video is the problems that I want you to skip deal with imaginary numbers. I guess the easiest way to explain this is if you're taking the square root of a negative number and you type that in your calculator, like the square root of -4, it gives you an error. It says that doesn't work. That doesn't happen, right? But there's a thing in math that you can kind of deal with imaginary numbers to get around that concept, that idea of taking the square root of a negative number. And since that's typically introduced in pre-calc, we're going to stick with that and we're going to go ahead and skip that in Algebra 2. So anything dealing with imaginary numbers, sometimes you'll see it in the solutions manual. It's just an I. That means imaginary numbers. We're not going to do those. So skip past those. So everything should be there ready for you to work on for this week. So I'm going to pause for questions, let people that are late in Feel free to unmute yourself, type something in the text box. All right. Yeah, Alex, no problem. And Alex brings up a good point, just kind of, thanking for extending those things. If I'm just kind of on autopilot and you have a suggestion like that, I don't take offense to it. If like I'm just picking Alex out of the crowd. If Alex emailed me and he was like, "Hey, you've got the due date still on Sunday, it's Thanksgiving week. Is there any possible way we can extend that?" Usually my mind is just on autopilot and I'm just going, building it week after week after week. I'm not against taking your suggestions, and definitely thinking about applying those in class. So if something like that happens again, please feel free to reach out to me and just be like, "Hey, it's break. We should have these days off. Can we get an extension?" I'm happy to do that. So thanks for mentioning that, Alex. Um, Sweet. I'm assuming there is no questions because I don't have anything else in the text box and nobody's unmuted themselves. So I'm going to hang back and talk with anybody that wants to talk. I hope everybody else has an awesome day and we'll see you Wednesday. Thanks, Ashley. You too. Thanks, Andre. You too. All right. Questions from anybody that's hanging back?
Have a good day, Mr. Chapman.
Thanks, No. You too. Antonia, Carson, any questions from you guys?